Well, hello everyone, and welcome to CIST 240, Data Structures Using C++. Now, you may ask a question, C++, why C++? Well, let me just tell you, I know you're taking this class, so that should mean that you already have a Java background and you should have some Python background. So now let's go back to the question, why C++? Well, to start with, C++ is like the cousin of Java, so it's not a completely a different story. There are some differences, of course, between them, so you should know that for sure. But you will notice, especially today in this video, that you will notice a lot of similarity. Maybe the structure of the project is going to be different. Some terms are going to be different. Input-output operations are going to be a little bit different. But in general, there's a great similarity. Now, let me go back to the class itself. This class is called Data Structures using C++. And to be honest, it's not only data structures, it's data structures and algorithms. And we are going to talk about those two terms in a lot of details later. But for now, you just need to know that this class is all about how can we organize data inside the memory in a way the accessibility to the data is going to be super fast. So we are concerned about how fast we can have access to the data. And also we are somehow also concerned with the space that's going to be required for the data. Our ultimate goal is simply to get a data structure that will take the minimum space possible with the fastest accessibility. Like you can have access to the data as fast as possible. Now, in reality, that is impossible. You always give up something for something. So it's either you give up space for speed or you give up speed for space. You cannot have both. Let's just put it that way. Now, algorithm simply presents the operations that we can apply to those data structures. So we are going to talk about those two terms a lot during the semester, and we're going to implement them using C++ programming language. And in the first two videos, or two first lessons in this course, I'm going to go through C++ just to give you an idea. Now, also let me just know let me let you know that this is not a programming class, so programming is not going to be the main topic of this class. Mostly understanding the data structures, their properties, and how do they work, and understand how the operations are implemented are very, very important. Implementing wise, we're going to be using C++, and I hope by the knowledge that you have from previous programming language and the two lessons that we are going through, you will be able to understand codes that will be given to you. You'll be asked to write a code in a very, very minimum way. Let's just put it that way. In a lot of cases, code will be given to you and you'll be asked to explain it in a lot of cases. So if you are concerned about, oh, this is going to be a programming class, I would say not a programming class, but programming is part of it and it's not the major part of it. So with that being said, let's get back to today's video. Now, I already posted a video called How to Set Up C++ in Visual Studio Code. And if you can manage to get that video, if you can manage to watch that video and repeat the operations on your computer system, and you can get C++ to run on your computer system, then that's a good news for you. But I'm expecting that it may not work for everybody. And that is totally normal situation. For that reason, in this video, I'm going to go take you through an alternative way to get the job done. But this alternative way, it's kind of a little bit heavy on your computer. Simply means it's not going to be as fast as the Visual Studio Code. And you will notice that your computer is not going to be super fast when you try to get stuff done, especially if you have an old computer. So, as I said, in the video that I posted inside lecture video, in the first lesson, I posted a YouTube video called How to Set Up C++ with Visual Studio Code. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the process of how do you install Visual Studio without the word code. So it's just Visual Studio. Okay, now Visual Studio is much heavier and it's dedicated specifically for certain programming languages. One of them is C++. And it would take a lot more space than Visual Studio Code. It takes a little bit more time to execute, but all of that is acceptable. all of that is good. So let me just go through the process of the installation. And then after that, we start going through what this lecture is all about. So you have to go to Google and just search for Visual Studio download. Remember, no code here, just Visual Studio download. Now, the first link here is going to show you the link. You can see if there's a download. Now, you can see if there's 3 versions here. Those 2 versions, the professional and the enterprise, are, even see it says free trial. So this simply means they're not free. But this one is free, so we go with that. After you download that software, you will get the file downloaded to your system. Immediately after that, you start the process of installation. Now, I already installed the software in my system, so because it takes time. It takes a good 15 minutes to be installed in your system. One thing I need to let you know at this point, by default, no programming language are selected for this software. So what you need to do simply, after you install it, pay attention to the options that will be given to you and wait for a window that's going to pop. And you know what? Let me just try and see if I can get to that window. So I already downloaded. Let me just try again here. This is installed. I'll just go with it. Hopefully I will get to that point. Okay, continue. If I can get to that point, I'm going to stop after it. So let me see. Because it's already installed, he's showing me those 3 options. In your case, you're not going to be seeing those options. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on modify. And remember here, you're not going to be seeing modify. Oh, let me just click on available. No. I'm going to click on modify just to see what's going to happen. Yes, this is the window that you are going to see. Now, as I said, by default, all of these options that you have here are simply available for you to choose from. We are concerned with this option, desktop development with C++. By default, this is not going to be selected, so you just have to select it. Once it's selected, you'll see all this list here of the items that you would need in your computer system. Once you're done with that part, click on next, and it will be installed in your system. Okay, so I'm glad that I was able to get to this window. So I'm just going to close it now. Right after you download the software and you install in your system and you launch the software, you will see something very similar to what you see here, with one exception, that in this area here, you see this area that's empty, you'll see a window with a lot of text. Just go ahead and close it. Okay? Once you close that project or that window, you will see something like this. Now, what we need to do, we need to start a new project. So I will go with a new project. Let's go back here. Oh, God, just project. And you will see a window like this. We are going to create an empty project. So we go with this one. You click on next. You give it a name. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go lesson 1. And just keep it as it is. Create. Let's see, a project directory already exists. When a project created, you must place it within your folder. Okay, he doesn't like something here. Add a solutions, maybe that will fix it. Nope. What is the part that you don't like? He doesn't like this location probably. Let me choose a different location. I'm going to create a new folder. You know what? Let me just close this. Let me call it different, something different. I will call it chapter 1. Let's see. No, he doesn't like it too. Let's see if he's going to like it or not. Create a new solution name. Create. Okay, yep, here it is. And I will say save. And here we go. So we are done. Once you pass that part, you have to go to the source files, right click on it, create, add. Let me just repeat that. This is going to be pop. You see the name of the project. You go to the source files here, right click, click add new item, and I will call this one a new file. You can keep it as it is, or you can call it main CPP. Click on add, and you can see that you got this window open here. Now, in this class, let me just be sure about something. I am not going to teach you C++ as it's my priority. I'm not going to talk about how do you optimize your code, how do you make it work as fast as possible, what are the good practices, what are the bad practices. That's not my main concern. My main concern is to demonstrate how data are organized and how we can apply operations on the data. Okay, now before I start with running the first code here, let me see if I can actually increase the text file here. Let me just start by typing something here. I'm going to get to the point later. Let's see if I can actually zoom or view. Properties. No, that's not properties. I need to look here and see how can I increase the font size, because that's a very, very important thing to do. So you guys can actually, let me just move to my other computer to search for that. Visual Studio increase font size. Okay, so it says go to the menu bar. Okay, where's the menu? Here's the menu bar, and select tools. Let's see, here's tools. In the tools goes to option. Go to options. Here's options. In the options, go to now I remember. I haven't done this in really, really long time. So environment. We have to go to select environment. Here's environment. Select fonts and colors. Where's fonts? This is environment. That's what it says. In options list, select environment. And then select font and colors. Well, let's see here. There, fonts and colors. My bad, I couldn't see it. And now after that, select text editor, here, which is already selected. Modify the font size. Where is the font size? Here it is. Let's go with 18. Let's see how's that going to look like. It looks acceptable to me, at least. Now let's continue. I'm going to show you how do we create a very, very simple C++ project and how do we run it. And this is something you're going to have to do every time you work on any project in the future. So let's go ahead and do that. After you type include IOStream, the way you see it here, you type using name space std. I'm going to give you an explanation about all this in a sec. And I'll type after that integer main, open a parentheses, and then open a curly brace. And we're going to go cout test end line semicolon. And now after that, I am done. This is a very, very simple program that will just run the word test on the screen. So let's give this a try. I clicked on this arrow here, and you can see here, I can see the word test. So my project simply works. Let me change the test, and I'll say welcome to C++, even though this is not a C++ class, but let's just do that. And you can see the message is printed here. This is an indication that everything's okay and everything running, and we have no issues at all. So at this point, I hope everybody will be able to get to this point as soon as possible, because this is going to be a very, very important thing to know. Now, here's what, let me just explain those few lines that we have here. Including IOStream. IOStream is, you can think about it as a box, a very special box that contains certain tools that are related to the input-output operations. Okay? And we are simply going to be using part of those operations in this project. And this part of that operation that we're going to use is stored in another box. So you can think about this as a big box that contains multiple smaller boxes. And the small box that we are using is called std. And from the std, we have this cout and we have this end line. Both of them are, you can think about it as tools stored in the std box, which is a box stored in a bigger box called the IOStream. Okay, every time you write a C++ program, those lines are a must. Let's just go back, take this one away. Those lines are a must. You must have those lines to be able to run any project. So let's get back to the business that we have here. IOStream represents a very, very big box related to the input-output operations that we are going to use. Inside that big box, we have very, very smaller boxes. One of them is called std, which we are going to try to use. After that, we have what we call the main function. Now, the main function represents the starting point of execution for a project. By the way, I'm just taking my medicine, just in case you're wondering. So, anything you're going to type inside the main function in this area here simply is going to be executed. We're going to later learn what we're going to type here and what we're going to type here. But for now, we're just all about the basics. So this is the basics. Now, the first thing I want to tell you here is how do we perform some output operations? Okay? And the output operation simply is applied using a command called cout. You follow cout with those less than simple, both of them, and then double quotations, and you type whatever you want to type here. Okay? This is not a C++ course, just to make it as obvious as possible. And line semicolon. And line simply means after you're done typing E, move to the next line. And if I run it, you'll see that I have some extra space here after that. Okay, so this is how we perform some output operations. Now, we have multiple options. And again, I am here not going to be judging you for your C++ skills. You should have some of them, but I'm not going to be judging you that. You can put \n, and you probably will get the same exact effect. And you can see here that is the same. \n is what we call a escape character. And I need you to really, really think \n is the same escape character that we know from Python and we know from Java. So there's nothing new here. The only thing is different is the structure of the code and how we're performing outputs. And you should ask yourself how we used to do outputs in Java. Do you remember system out.println? Here it is. Just replace all of that with this. And that's how we perform some outputs. Now, before I continue, let me just show you how do we add comments in C++. And guess what? It's exactly the same thing as in Java. So, a single line comment, I'll just type my name, for example, here. If you want to have multiple lines comments, here it is. Backslash, asterisk, asterisk, backslash. I will say project 1 C++ demo. And I can put the date, 2023, 2024. Whew. Okay, so here it is. Those are comments, and this is how we add those comments. Now, do I really need to tell you what's the point of comments? We already know that from previously. It's just a text that you're going to add to your file that's not simply going to be executed. It's simply going to be ignored by the compiler. Now, let's go back to this part here. This part here is what we call the main function. And the word function should mean something to you. You should know what it is. And let's just go back here to the main function and just explain what's the part of the main function. Every single function in C++ contains a return data type, which is in this case as an integer. Now I can prove void if I want to, but integer is still acceptable. It should have a name. This is the name, and those are the parameters, which in this case there is no parameters. Now the curly brace opening and the curly brace closing represent the beginning and the end of the function, and this is considered the body of that function. And let me just remind you here, everything is just something you already know about. Now, in C++, there's a lot of, let me just get back to this include IOStream. IOStream, if I want to tell you what is the right term, it should be called a library. And a library is simply a pre-exist work that somebody already created for you. And all you have to do is just learn how to use it. You remember in Java when we used to say import? And well, actually, not only in Java, in Python, we used to import a lot of libraries. Well, the same thing here. We import libraries, but instead of using the word import, we use #include, and the things that we're trying to import, we put them between less than and greater than symbols, and we type what we're trying to import. In addition to the iStream, we have other libraries like CMath and many, many more. So I don't want you to worry about that. As we go through the semester, whenever we need to introduce new libraries, I'm going to go and give you an idea about them. But we do have many, many different libraries that we can include in our projects. Okay, now let's move on and talk about data types. Now, data types, just like how in Java and just like how in Python, we do have data types here. And data types are two types. We have primitive data types and we have non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are the data that comes as part of the programming language. And the good news is that we only have 4 of them. Non-primitive data types are data types that are created by someone. And in a lot of cases, we might need to include some libraries to be able to use them. So I'm just going to go with the primitive data types, and then I'll show you the non-primitive data types. And for non-primitive data types, we are just going to use strings for now. And if we find ourselves in the future in the need to introduce different types of non-primitive data types, we're going to do that. So what are the primitive data types that we have in C++? Let me take this away. We have integers, okay? We have doubles, we have characters, and we have booleans. And those are the 4 different primitive data types. Now, one thing you should know about C++ before I forget, C++ is a very, very old programming language, but at the same time, it's a very, very fast programming language. And because data structures sometimes deals with huge amount of data, very, very complicated operations, if you have a slow programming language, then the performance is going to be affected by that very, very bad. So for that purpose, C++ is very, very widely used for those types of applications because simply you will get the job done faster and human experience is going to be much better comparing to slower programming languages. So let's go back here. I'm going to call num1, set that to 10 or 100. Double, I will call this one num2. We'll set that to 200.099. And then I will call character, I will call it grade, and I will set that to an A. And for Boolean, I will say flag, and I will set that to false. Now, I don't think I need to explain to you what's the meaning of each one of those data types. You already had some background, and this is exactly what we have in Java. Okay, so integer, doubles, characters, and Booleans. Now, if I want to show those on the screen, all I have to do is type cout, and then I will go num1. And then let's just put a space here, and then I'll type num2, and then let's put a space here, and I will type grade, and then put a space here, and I will type flag, and then put a space here, and I'll put end line semicolon. Actually, there is no need for this space, so I'm going to take it away. Now, if I give it a run, you would notice that 100, 299, A, and false. Look at this. In C++, anything that is false is considered as 0. Anything true, that's considered as 1. So let me just go back and show you that and demonstrate that for you. If I come here and change this to be true, you would notice that it's going to give me 1 instead of true. So that's something to know. Now, if I want this to look a little bit better, here's what I can do. It's going to be a little bit long, but that's okay. I'm going to come here and do this. I'll just say num1 equal, and it's going to show me this num1. After that, if I put \n and I will type num2 equal, then it's going to show me this in the new line. If I put \n grade, let's put it with the upper G, and let's put an equal. It's going to show me the grade. I hate when it take that long. And now we're going to go back to \n flag, and then we'll put it equal. And now let's give this a run. And now you can see here num1 equal 100, num2, grade, and flag. Okay, so this is again a very, very simple, straightforward how do you deal with primitive data types. Non-primitive data types is simply strings. And strings are a little bit different, but let's go ahead and then just do that. You type string with a lowercase s, unlike C++, unlike Java, and I'll call it name. And in name, I will just type, for example, my name. And remember, every single sentence ends with a semicolon, just like in Java. Now, if I type cout name, and let's just be a little bit fancy, I will say name is, or my name is, oh, come on, my name is, and I'll put and line, and I'll put at the end. Now let's give this a try, and you'll see that my name is, and I have some issue with the space. Let's go ahead and put the space here so it will look a little bit better. And here you go. So that's an example of strings. And now one thing you should know about strings is that they kind of require some attention when you deal with them. They're not that straightforward when it comes to performing operations on them. And those type of details, we are not going to go through them unless we have to. But in general, during this class, the maximum thing I will ask you is to create a string and assign it to a value or change its value. I'm not going to ask you to concatenate, to substrings, all these details about strings. I'm not going to go through them. It's not part of what this class is all about. So we just keep it as it is and treating strings in a very, very simple and easy way. Now, one of the things that we can do in C++, just like in Java, is to perform some input operations, even though in a lot of cases, especially in this class, we're going to minimize the entering the input operations to the minimum amount, but it's still something you need to know. For example, if I want to ask you for, let's say, how old are you? So I'm going to say, how old are you? And you're supposed to tell me how old are you. Now, so here's how it's done. First of all, I need to create a variable, I'm going to call it age, to store your age in it. And this is how we perform input operations. And I'm going to come here and say cin. Do you remember? Do you see here? Cout is to show the results on the screen. Cin to read the number or the enter from the keyboard. So age. And put semicolon. And then I'm going to follow that with a cout. You are, and I'll put age here. And I'll put a space here. And I'll put another space, years old. And let's put a \n with a semicolon. Of course, don't forget that. So let's go ahead and run this code and see how things are going to go. And you can see here, he's asking me about my age, 45, and you are 45 years old. Okay. Now, I am going to keep reminding you about this. I am not here to teach you everything about C++, especially for the purpose of this class. I just want you to have some basics, some background about it. Okay? Later on, next class, in the next lesson, we're going to talk about pointers, and we're going to talk about classes and objects and inheritance. And those topics are going to be used heavily in this class, so it's a good idea to have an idea about them. Yet again, you will not be judged based on your knowledge about C++ as much as your knowledge about the data structures and the operations. Okay? I'm just trying to not scaring you that much because I know sometimes some students are not very, very let's say, happy with programming in general. Like I don't say it in general, but sometimes. So I just don't want you to be worried about that part. Okay, so now that we know how do we create variables, now that we know how do we ask user to enter values. Now, of course, just like how I ask you about your age, I can ask you about your grade, about the number of siblings that you may have, and many, many different type of questions. Now, with that being said, let's move on and see what else we can do. And by the way, there is a Word document that I posted in lesson one, which I am using as a reference here. Okay. Now, in C++, just like how in Python, in Java, we can create constants. For example, I can come here and I will say constant integer num1. And that simply means I will not be able to change it anymore. This is something we know originally. Now, the rules that we follow to name the variables are very, very similar to the rules that we have in Java, with one exception. In Java, $sign was accepted, and C++ $sign is not accepted. So you're only allowed to use underscore, alphabetic characters, and digits, and you're not allowed to start with a digit. Okay? But when it comes to constants, it's recommended, again, it's not a rule that you simply must follow. But if I create a constant, then it's recommended to give it or put it in uppercase, all uppercases letters. Okay, so that's a constant. Of course, you can see here the moment I changed num1 to uppercases, he's complaining about it. I have no idea what this num1. Of course, because you should know that C++, just like any other programming language, it's a case-sensitive programming language. Okay, now with that being said, let's move on and let's talk about. Let's see here. Where am I? I am here. Structures, operators. I am looking at. Let me go and start talking about Boolean expressions. Now, Boolean expressions are identical to what we have in Java. We have uh, 6 different Boolean expressions, comparison operations or relational operations, and they are equal, not equal, greater than equal, less than or equal. Okay, so those are operations that we use to compare two numbers. And when you do that, you're simply going to end up having a true or a false answer. So if I come here and say cout, and I will say num1 is greater than, num2, and line semicolon. Now you see he's complaining about this. The solution for this is simply to surround the Boolean expression with parentheses. Because sometimes you get confused. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to type print num2 and then compare it to the result? So it gets confused about what's the priority of what operations need to be done before. So that's why we have to put the parentheses here. So if I run it, you will notice that this should be false, I believe. So if I go just SSS, you can see here, you got 0. Now, even though he asked me about my age and I entered SSS, C++ took it, but he just put it as 0. Now let's just go ahead and switch the operation as num1 is less than num2. You would notice that it's going to give me 1 instead. And you can see here we got no at the bottom. So those are the rational or comparison operators. Now, just like how we have those comparison operations, we also have arithmetic operations. And the arithmetic operations, I will say they are identical with what you have in Java. So we have adding, we have subtracting, we have multiplications, we have division. And just like in Java, we have the integer division that you have to pay attention to. We have the plus equal, we have the minus equal, we have the multiplication equal, we have the division equal. All of that has been explained in Java. We have plus plus, we have minus minus. All of that has been explained. And also, I forgot to mention, we have the module operator. So all these operations are simply available in C++, just like how they were available in Java. Let's just go ahead and show you an example here. If I go cout, and I'll say num1, oh, sorry, it's uppercase, so num1 multiplied by num2, end line, simply is going to multiply both of them. Now, you don't really need to have parentheses in this case because it's going to work. Let me just copy that and put a different operation after that. Oops. Control V. I will say subtract, maybe. Come on. I don't like my laptop computer. Okay, so we'll go 45 again. And you can see here, this is the multiplication, and this is the subtraction results. So just like how we did it before, we do have those operations, and they are available here just like how they were available in Java. Now, I really don't need to explain. This is again the whole point of having this class. Like, you need to finish the Java class before you jump here, because everything that I'm talking about here, you already know. You already have a background. You know what it is. Now, one thing you should know, just like how in Java, we have selection structures and we have repeating structures. For the selection structures, we have the if statement. So if I go, if num1 was less than num2, I simply would like you to do something. For example, cout good. Why good? I have no idea. But again, this is just a demo for the programming language. And we also have the if else, cout bad, \n, semicolon. Now, just like how we have the if statement, we have the nested if statement. And just like how we have the switch in Java, we have the switch here in C++. So the switch statement, and like, this is the beauty of learning multiple programming languages, because they are almost identical. So I'm going to go with num1, and I will go here, and you will see, again, if you remember anything about Java, you'll see case 100, and I'll say cout. Nothing make any sense in what I'm typing. Kansas City. So in case num1 is 100, I'll go ahead and type break. I'll have another case here, case 200, and then cout. All the details are very, very similar. What do I put here? I will put do by \n, semicolon, break. And then after that, we go with the default. And then cout, we'll type kckcc, \n, semicolon. Okay, let's go ahead and see the results of running this. This is supposed to show me good. This is supposed to show me Kansas City. If I run it, and I'll go 45, and you can see good, Kansas City. And it's working perfectly fine. So those are the selection structures. For the repeating structures, we have the for loop, we have the while loop, and we have the do while loop. And they are identical to what Java has. So they're exactly the same. Okay, let me just demonstrate one of them at least for you. Okay, I didn't ask for this. If I go 4 and look at this, integer x equal 0 as long as x is less than 10, and then x plus plus, and I'll go cout, show me the value of x, follow that with a space just in case, and let's go cout, end line, So it's going to go to the new line, and you would notice now how the values are going to be printed from 0 all the way to 9 after that, and here we go. So that's the for loop. Of course, you should be able to try the while loop and the do while loop. That should not be a problem. It's very, very similar to what you know already from Java. Now, in addition to the comparison operations, we have the logical operations. So here's what I can do. I can come here and say, and grade equal, and let's just put B. So the and, we have or, we have not, just like how in Java. And simply means both of those has to be true for the whole expression to be valued as true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. So in this case, num1 is actually less than num2, but grade, if you go all the way back to the grade is A. And since I'm comparing it to B, so this is going to be false, and for that reason, this is going to be printed as bad. So let's go ahead and give this a try, and you would notice, there's something that he doesn't like, but let's just continue for now. Did I see a good? Yes, I see a good. That simply means he didn't execute it. I made a mistake somewhere, and he's not happy about it. Yes. 4. Wait a minute. That is not the case. He is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. It looks like I mistakenly typed something somewhere. Let me take this one away. Let me run it again. Okay, there were a build error. Would you like to continue to run the latest success building? No. Okay, I'm missing a semicolon somewhere. Here. Okay, that explains a lot. So let's go back and add that. Grade equal B. So if I go and run it, now you will see that it will show me that bad that I was looking for, and here it is. It's bad down there. Okay, so these are the logical operators. We said we have 3 of them: the and, the or, and the not. We talked about. Let's move on and talk about arrays and structures. I'm going to leave structures to lesson 2. I'm just going to go through arrays, and after that, we'll talk about functions, and that should be it. Pointers and references, I'll leave that for a whole class, actually. So we will have a good. No, I'm not going to leave it for a whole class. Let's see how things are going to go now. I don't know how long this video is at this point. So right after I'm done with the first part, I might consider adding another video for the references and for the pointers, because that class is extremely important. That subject is extremely important. Functions. How do we create functions? Well, we did learn how to create functions in Java. Let's just see how we do it. Same thing here. First of all, tell me what is the return data type. In this, for example, integer. Tell me what's the name of the function, add, and do you have parameters? And the answer will be, in this case, yes. So I'll go integer x1, integer x2. What am I supposed to do here? I'm going to create a value called results. And I'm going to set results to equal x1 plus x2. So whatever x1 is or whatever x2 is going to be simply added together with x2. And then the whole result is going to be assigned to results. And then after that, return results, semicolon. So this is a very, very simple example about how we create a function. Now I could create another function. This time I'm going to say void as a function that will not return anything. And I will say print my name. Okay? And then I will pass a string, lowercase s, and I'll type name, or let's put in my name. And I'll just come here and say cout and I'll put my name and line semicolon. So here it is. Now you can see here, because this is a void function, it doesn't have a return statement, but this one has a return statement. Now again, believe me, if I want to talk about functions in C++, I would need the 45 minutes to do that. But here I'm just showing you some basics. And as I said, as we go through the semester, if I need to add anything to what I just showed you, I'll talk about it later. When I'm going to be moving on and talk about the reference and pointers and arrays, I'll get back to functions later. So I'm going to leave arrays and pointers reference for another video because I don't want this to be a very, very long one. But at this point, those are functions. Let me just show you how do we use them. If I go down here and I will say cout, and I will say add, and I will put, for example, 10 and 20, and line semicolon. This function simply is going to be called here. 10 is going to be passed to x1, and 20 is going to be asked to x2. And then after that, they're going to be added together. The results of adding those two numbers are going to be simply, let's just call it RE. The results is going to be stored in RE, and then RE is going to be returned. And when it's going to be returned, it's going to be returned to place this line here. So it's going to show you the value itself. Now I can do the same thing here. I will say print. How did I call it? Let's just go back to the top. Print my name. Yes, with uppercase MY. Well, actually, this is a good idea. Let's say you love how Python works. Okay? So I'm going to go print, and I'll just type hello world. We used to do that in Python, right? So let's go ahead and do it here. And instead of print my name, I'll just go print. And instead of my name, I'll just put text. And I'll put text here. Okay, so you can see here that somehow I was able to use that line that we used to use in Python. But remember here, this is a function, just a function, and this is the implementation of that function. Let's go ahead and run it and see the changes that we apply. So 45, I should see here the addition of 10 plus 20, I got 30, and the hello world is printed on the screen. Okay, so those are functions, and those are how we call those functions. What I would say till this point, I believe I covered everything I need to cover in a single class, a single video, sorry. I'm not going to go in a little bit more details. I'm going to leave it at this point. I'm going to record a video probably tomorrow. And the next video is going to be about pointers, references, and arrays. And we're going to go back and revisit functions because those topics are somehow related. And after that, we'll be done with the lesson 1 videos. In lesson number 2, we're going to talk about classes, objects, and inheritance. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys soon.